is the Jeff Santos Show.
Doug Wilder became the first elected black governor. Carol Moseley Braun went to the U.S. Senate. Because of Jesse, the Democratic Party changed its rules, ending the winner-take-all distribution of delegates during presidential primaries, which meant underdogs and outsiders like Bill Clinton or Bernie Sanders could stay competitive and build momentum instead of getting knocked out early. And it was because of that path that he had laid, because of his courage, his audacity, that 2 decades later, a young black senator from Chicago's South Side would even be taken seriously as a candidate for the presidential nomination.
That, of course, was Reverend Jesse Jackson's memorial service today. Of course, that was President Barack Obama talking about the fantastic leader that will surely be missed by many, not only people who are African American, people of color, but people who believe in a diverse America, who believe that we are all tied together, we're all humans. And again, the Rainbow Coalition that Jesse Jackson talked about there was all very much part of not only his campaigns in 84 and 88 for president, but just overall how he could bring people together. And that's what we need to do, because we're being divided left and right by the current occupant of the White House, which his name doesn't need to be really talked about. I think you all know who he is. All right. Our next guest comes to us from Seattle, WA. He is the Renaissance man of the Jeff Santos Show. He's an activist for sure. He's a musician for sure. And he's also the Democracy Watch News executive director. He's MTC, and he's on with his blue guitar. I think it's blue. Yeah, there it is. It is blue, right? MTC, how are you?
Hey, Jeff. How's your week? TGIF.
Yeah, man, for
Oh,
sure.
my God.
We need a lot of those.
We had a great time at the Central Saloon last night, one of the most iconic clubs in Seattle where all the great grunge bands have played and stuff. And, oh, my God, it's so great playing on that stage, just knowing the history of the bands that played there. And also playing with people like Ayron Jones, who I've talked about before. He's kind of our local guitar wizard. He opened for the Rolling Stones on their European tour in Paris, and great guy. But we had so much fun. I'm a little bit sleep deprived, but I got my yerba mate soda here, which is great. I was having memories of drinking this. I'm not getting paid for this, by the way, but I remember drinking these when I was in LA.
Is that full of sugar?
This doesn't have as much sugar. Some of the yerba mates have no sugar. So yeah, okay. But in LA, we used to go to a Cuban restaurant, right? And we would get these yerba mate sodas, and oh my God, they would definitely start your day off. I mean, they're pretty strong. It's a little bit like caffeine. So not for the uninitiated. Rush, huh? Well, the yerba mate itself is a stimulant. So it's a herb that is kind of like caffeine. So yeah, it gets you going. And you have to be careful because they do taste good. This one doesn't have a lot of sugar. The one that I had yesterday had literal 0 sugar. So you can just get yerba mate soda or tea without sugar at all. It has a little bit of a bitter taste to it without a little bit of honey or something in it. It's kind of like caffeine in that way.
Honey
these are acquired
tastes.
These are acquired tastes. When I was a kid and I first drank my uncle's beer, his Rainier beer, up in the Northwest, that's the hipster beer, Rainier, right? I thought it was terrible. It tasted like crap. I was like, why do people drink this crap? This is horrible. And then he gave me a drink of his coffee, and I was like, that tastes terrible too, because he used to drink it black. And so I always thought when I was a kid that adults were just crazy, but they call them acquired tastes.
Black coffee just never really does it for me. Although I just like a little bit of skim milk in it, actually. That's
Something,
all right.
anything. I drink
Yes.
tea
By
most
the
of the
way,
time, Jeff.
I
I
don't
do
think
not
we've
drink
seen
coffee.
that yellow guitar behind you. Did you get that recently? It's over your left
Oh
shoulder.
man, I can't keep track of my instruments, but this is this is one of my favorites. It's actually cream colored, and it's a interesting. I would call it a Frankenstein guitar because the
Hmm.
body and the neck are from different guitars, so they were put together this way. But the head
Well, it kind of
stock
matches
is
my sweatshirt. So I get the gold and
well, the
black.
headstock is a little
Yes.
bit smaller. This is Mark's guitar segment. So this is the headstocks are a little bit smaller. Like this one is a traditional. The one on top is a traditional Stratocaster, and
Okay. Right.
the headstock is just. If I can do this right, I'm doing looking at myself backwards on the computer. So the headstock is a little bit different.
Don't hit yourself in the
Yeah,
head.
yeah, or somebody else here. Yeah. So, but we have fun here in the studio. I've got all these instruments around. We just bought this weird thing from Reanimated Music, the best, well, one of the best, besides Emerald City Guitar.
Hmm.
Oh my God, they have $80,000 Gibson jazz guitars down there, Jeff. You have to buzz yourself in. There's high security, but it's a great guitar shop. It's where Keith Richards goes when he's in town. It's just
Oh
amazing
wow.
vintage stuff. It's a museum. It's a museum. Yeah. And the guys who work there are excellent musicians, and a lot of them are great studio musicians here in Seattle. So they're playing around
Cool.
town and they're playing with big name acts and just they're the guys I was playing with last night. They are the standard, like, go-to musicians if you go to Seattle and your guitar player's sick and can't, do your concert that night at the Coliseum, you call these guys. And Emerald City Guitars is where they work. So it's great. You can go in there and then also play music with them there. It's like having a job doing what you love. My friends at Reanimated Music, it's more like a co-op now. They bought this business. They
Well,
got
that's good.
a business loan, and they own it. They used to work for someone else when it was called Trading Musician, but she retired and for trademark purposes or whatever, wouldn't let them use the name. So they just started a whole new business, and people are supporting them like crazy because it's not just a music store. It's a musician's clubhouse where we all go hang out and talk about our gigs and get together and produce stuff and check out all the new instruments and jam. Sometimes we just jam in the middle of the store. It's really great. So this is a really cool music scene in Seattle where you can just walk in somewhere, buy a vintage guitar while you're talking to the guy who's selling it that you're in a band with. It's like that. People, it's more than a job, is the way that Jeff at Reanimating Music described it to me in one of my interviews with him. He said, some people have jobs, and then other of us, we have lifestyles, and our job is
There
our
you go.
lifestyle. And I think
Well, yeah.
you're
I mean, it makes
somebody who's
sense.
kind of doing that. I'm doing that. It's a good thing to do, folks, to find something that you really love and that you're pretty good at,
And
and just go out there and do it. Even you might have to starve for a while and not make any money. That's okay. That's where it starts, right?
we
You
know
got to do
about
some
that.
stuff for yeah.
Yes,
But at
indeed.
some point, people start to
Oh
appreciate you, and
man,
it's
yeah,
nice.
yeah. Eventually you get a few greenbacks. Hey, talking about this, this war, and I'm wondering what you're seeing and hearing on the streets of Seattle in terms of protest movements. A good friend Brian Garvey of Massachusetts Peace Action talking to us about, there's going to be more and more, and it's starting now. Of course, there's a possibility, tragically, of boots on the ground, American boots on the ground, which could be chaos and horrific for so many people. What are we fighting for? Is this Netanyahu's war? What are we doing? There's all of that. And on top of it, it's going to cost America a ton of money. Never mind the bloodshed that is most important. But I mean, I don't know what it is in Seattle, but about 35, 45 cents a gallon here. It's higher in other places, including our good friends in Wisconsin. I'm interested, Mark, in how people are looking at this, and I think that this is all going to go cave in on the Orange Menace, the dictator in chief. I really do, because I think you can only lie yourself, BS your way so long. He's trying to go into Cuba now and all these things. What do you make of the past, particularly the past week?
Well, one of my impressions is that I don't appreciate the fact that he's literally like messing with people's emotional state of mind right now, because wherever you're at in the country, you're thinking about this stuff and you're seeing it on the news all the time. I was saying recently that we don't always get a lot of great news about the inside workings of other countries until we, attack them. Then suddenly, we see them every night on the news. So, people are trying to, there's definitely going to be, there have been some big protests here, and on Sunday, the 8th is, I believe it's International Women's Day. So to all the women out there, congratulations.
Yes,
and
right.
we'll be celebrating your day with a march in Seattle against multiple issues, because it's not just this, it's ICE and it's the corruption at the top levels of the government, all this stuff. So I'm hoping that folks who now are going to have to go fill up their SUV, and say, hey, what happened? I voted for this guy and he was supposed to make my life better. Maybe some of those people who jumped to Trump will start to have second thoughts and actually join the hippies and the liberals out on the street, and
That's right.
maybe we can join
like Pat
together on at
Buchanan
least
did
one issue.
in 2000, when against the folks that created the protest internationally, IMF and all that stuff, back in the day when you were just new to Seattle. So who knows? The coalitions could develop that are pretty weird and pretty strange. But I want to talk to you about something else. This is our Fun Day Friday segments, and we did a whole thing on old television with Michael DePasquale, and of course he was publicist for not the Bob Newhart show, but the second one. And then secondly, he also Ellen DeGeneres and so forth. And I'm wondering how much, television, and of course there were a lot of, in the 1960s before you were born, and I was, very young, that basically a lot of music, a lot of shows, debuted a ton of music. Ed Sullivan with the Stones and the Doors, the Smothers Brothers, we were talking about that earlier, had a whole slew of different bands on them, and of course very progressive, anti-war at the time, again on CBS, which is now going to become a shell of itself with the ownership of Ellison. You have any thoughts about how television and and maybe the music of the 60s and 70s? Of course, Hendrix was massive in those days. It's part of your intro and all the stuff that we learn about. Of course, he's from Seattle. Give me a little thoughts about that, looking back.
Well, I have a couple things to say. One is, hey, Mr. Boss Man.
Hey.
Better hear us when we call, Mr. Boss Man. Better hear us when we call.
With the blue guitar.
You just talk, that's all.
Yeah.
And there's also
MTC.
Mother and children, wherever you go, and exist that the waters around you have grown, because the times they are changing.
Hey, did you see that film? The Bob Dylan film a couple of years ago. I guess now it's 2 years ago.
Yes, yeah.
What did you?
I mean,
what did you make of it?
Well, first of all, I mean, I know we're talking about all this stuff and we're trying to go entertainment, but I'm thinking about, what Bob Dylan was thinking back in the 60s when he was seeing, his friends from the college sent off to war. And I'm really worried, the military families, I'm wondering, about how you're going to be, because when we start sending sons and daughters off to war for somebody's political agenda, it really makes you start to wonder. Right. And it make you want to organize to get the vote out so that we can get some of these people out of office. Because one of the things that I'm trying to write into a song right now, but it's the message I'm trying to get across is that if we don't hold this president accountable, and we've failed to hold other presidents accountable as well, so he's not the only one, but right. This is just the worst example. But if we fail to hold our presidents accountable, then in some ways the U.S. Constitution is not worth the paper it's written on. And I know by now, since it was written on, parchment in 1776, it's probably worth a lot of money, that paper. But I think it's coming to the Seattle, actually. They're sending it around the country so that people can see these historic documents, and it will be in Seattle. So I will definitely be checking it out. But, that document means a lot to me. I know it goes all the way back to the Magna Carta in 1215 or whatever with King John and all that, but it's a tradition of democracy that also goes all the way back to the Greeks and beyond that, and to tribal communities around the world. So we're trying to kind of,
our buddy Socrates.
I'm hoping that this will organize the people who have been apathetic, because I'm sorry, folks, you can't just sit back and say nothing anymore. I mean, you don't have that option. So, and
you got to stand up.
Let's keep bringing the music out too, and talking about it. And while we try to, not let it throw us off of so much of our own balance that we are not effective, we still have things we need to do in our communities. We have people we need to take care of and to help educate and to socialize with. And we have artists who need our support. And we have, I hate to say this to the people in the Patriots, but we have Super Bowl champions.
Yes. We see it there. Yes. Rub it in.
We're not quite over that.
There will always be a Malcolm Butler, though, and Gronkowski's touchdown, which, so the Patriots go ahead.
Well, we're even.
Anyways,
now.
Back in 2000.
Let's call it even.
Yes,
Let's call it even. Maybe next time. Right. Maybe next year, right? It'll be two out of three.
Well, we're going to have to get a new receiver since we're letting Betts go. Or Diggs, sometimes.
Yeah, and the Mariners have got to get.
Go.
Yeah, the Mariners have done okay, but it was, we did lose a player that I was glad it didn't turn into the Huskies. Like after the Huskies almost won the national championship a couple years ago, and we know what happened to our coach. He went directly to where one of the biggest schools in the country, in the Big Ten. But we had all of our players left. They all entered the portal and went to Oregon or Michigan, so our team got completely
the whole college system is all screwed up now. You get people in California in the Big Ten, which was originally the Midwestern, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, those great states and great schools, Ohio State amongst them all, and it doesn't make any connection to USC and and Stanford and. It's a real fiasco. It's money. Everything is money. Yeah.
From one season to the next, we went from vying for the national championship, and of course, unfortunately, Oregon, knocked us off. It's either Oregon or Michigan. It's always Oregon or Michigan. Those are our major rivals. Whenever they play at Montlake, where I was just kayaking the other day, actually. Jeff, I saw 4 bald eagles out there. It's so beautiful. Wow. And it's right next to Husky Stadium. Right next to Husky Stadium, there's this huge
I want to go to a game there. I'm going to put that on my bucket list. We're going to have to go because I want to take a boat.
It's a beautiful place. You see Mount Rainier to the south.
Yeah.
The Cascade Mountains to the east. You can kayak around there, bring your cabin cruiser or whatever, your little sloop, and just sit out, enjoy. So nobody can develop right there, even the college, because it's marshland. And believe me, you have to be very careful when you're kayaking because sometimes you can get grounded long before you get to the shore.
Oh, I can imagine.
And then if you try to get out to pull your kayak to shore, you step into 5 feet of mud. So you don't want to do that. And in those areas, I just stay out. I let the birds and the turtles and the frogs and everything, the beavers, they have that territory. I'll tell you this is a weird thing. We have freshwater seals. And I know they're not freshwater seals. They come in through the locks from Elliott Bay, from Puget Sound, the Salish Sea, which is saltwater, into the locks in Ballard, and then they end up in Lake Union, where I often paddle, and then Lake Washington, where I was at the other day. I was paddling right next to Husky Stadium, and all of that is beautiful marshland. It's kind of a bird sanctuary. There's a little canal, and you can pick, blackberries from your canoe or whatever. It's really nice.
I think Mark, you're going to have to run from mayor because you're a Chamber of Commerce commercial, man, when you come on this show. We're talking to Mark Taylor-Canfield here on the Jeff Santos Show.
I'm a booster.
545-5333. I guess so. It's proponents.
But I've lived in other
places.
Scene. I know you've lived here too, so you understand.
Yeah.
You've lived in some amazing places.
Well, in 1994, I almost had a chance. I was going to buy. I think I told you this story. I was going to buy a condo above Pioneer Square. and look at a place actually, and it could have changed my whole world. I would have been out there, I would have just missed the whole Pearl Jam and Nirvana world, but Soundgarden. But it would have been really cool living in your great city. I want to ask you about something else that I think is really important, and that is the communication industry. We talked a little bit about this last week. Of course, now that CNN has been bought by the Ellison family, and how media and you talk about the press and the freedom of the press and the what happens to journalists, particularly who want to speak truth to power. What do you make of this? Because we have seen what happened to the story about the El Salvadorian prison, which is a 60-minute story that got squashed by the Ellisons and so forth. You're now going to see them with CNN. I mean, it's really, you're limiting yourself to MS Now, and obviously a lot of independent things, and we include ourselves in that too. But that's what we're getting back to. It's really sad what has happened here, and of course, there's only so many mainstream outlets left in terms of newspapers and so forth, also bought by right wingers over the last 15 years or so. So this is something I know you care quite a bit about.
Yeah, I appreciate nonprofit news organizations like Democracy Watch News because, I mean, somebody's got to tell the real story. And, what's happening around the world with these wars is really, it's always the civilians who suffer the most. And,
Right.
And then
In Iran,
we all know that. It's the same scenario we saw in Vietnam. We saw it in the Iraq War. It's all rah, 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 the war. This time it wasn't even rah, 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 the war. I don't even think the media was that much behind the war, but it's a way to distract people from what's happening if you're a leader. And it's an old playbook that all the authoritarians use. So they're trying to distract us from what's really going on. I think, though, when the gas prices are going up, and when middle America is just looking at him going, WTF or whatever, I mean, it's getting to the point where even people who might have considered themselves to be very strident right, conservatives, might be rethinking things. So we all know the story. The problem is we just need to be able to transition into a more democratic style government. And what that has to do, what has to happen is that people have to run for office who actually believe in democracy. People have to actually take responsibility for standing up and representing their community and running for mayor or school board or whatever you can, your community councils, and just have a representative voice in the system. Make sure that you're there at even those political party conventions to speak out and to oppose usually the very kind of elitist Wall Street funded folks who run it, and make sure that the grassroots is heard by the top, because these are small victories, but the Supreme Court has actually sided with the people a couple of times, and it has actually been instrumental. Public pressure has been instrumental in some of the things that Trump has decided to do. I mean, after all, he is a politician. He might be an authoritarian and kind of not grounded in reality, but he sits in the White House, and even the White House folks is checking the polls, and they have advisors telling them, Mr. President, the Republicans are telling us that we're really hurting
hourly, not even daily.
Yeah. So he's surrounded by people in the Republican Party who hopefully will wake up and either reform their party or just start a new one or something. Just this whole idea that being a Republican is okay when you have a leader doing what he's doing, you really need to question that. I'm just saying, it's not about politics.
Yeah, I'm hoping that the Republican Party of today ends up going the way of the Whigs, WHIGS.
Yeah,
after 1860.
It's not about left or right. It's not about left or right. It's about right or wrong, and we know what's right, and it doesn't matter what political label you put on that. So there you go.
Yeah.
I gave my speech. I'm not running for anything.
You're not
That's
running
what
for
keeps
anything
me
just yet,
able to
anyways.
talk
At
like
least
this
not. At least not in this cycle. But
Once I
maybe
run
in
for
the
mayor,
future,
then
MTC. There you go.
once I run for
Maybe,
mayor, then they'll be telling me what to say. See, that's the problem.
there you go. You're gonna have to take off
as
the
long as
sunglasses and the hat, and you're gonna have to be respectable to the mainstream.
Oh,
Please don't do that.
yes, I do have eyes. Actually, these, it's funny because these flip up so you can actually see my eyes.
There you go.
I actually do have eyes.
Wow, look
Yes.
at that, man. We don't get to see that
but
too
I'm
often.
in a bright state. So
the
the thing
MTC
here is that in
appearances.
order to get enough light on me, because I wear black all the time, and I have to probably put the red curtain up again behind me so you can actually see what's going on behind me. But if I meld into if I put black guitars back there, you can't even see me.
Please,
But
just stay as you are. We got to run, my man.
Really bright.
Check
Take
out
care, Jeff.
MTC
I really
on
enjoyed
YouTube.
your guest today. Thank you for speaking out and being honest when we have such a corrupt political and media system. So thank you for doing that, and keep up the good work. I love listening to you and your guests. It's refreshing.
Awesome.
And everybody out there, have heart, stiff upper lip. You're stronger than this. We'll make it through.
That's right. Well said, my man. MTC here Fridays on the Jeff Santos Show. I want to thank Jalen for producing this broadcast, and of course all the great work of Rocky, Robin, and the entire team, and of course all there in Boca, Freddie and company. Folks, next Tuesday night we start at KBC. Gonna have a relaxing weekend. I hope you can too, and I hope I can. Until then, keep on fighting peacefully, non-violently. Have a great weekend. My name is Jeff Santos. Right now it's my time to say I gotta go.